Hello again. It has been a long time since we last talked. I hope you are doing well, but most likely you are not. The entire U.S. economy continues to collapse, along with the rest of the world. Where to start? There's so much pain and suffering to address. I suppose we should start with the current state of affairs that we find ourselves in today. Now, if you turn on the news and you watch the media, it appears the U.S. economy is bottoming and job losses are continuing to slow down, and that pretty soon we should be turning. I want to tell you that that is categorically false, and those are lies. That's the best word I can come up for. Pure nonsense. The economy is not bottoming, as those of you sitting at home watching this know, but the media is trying to paint it that way. For what reason, I don't know. Who is there left to fool? Are there that many idiots out there in this country? I don't think so. They're just trying to control your behavior now. Let's start off with the largest red herring argument in the history of mankind. The healthcare debate. Every time you turn on the TV, you see town halls with people screaming and fighting and shoving and cursing, accusations of racism and the like. And then you see the president and Congress fighting. Well, let me tell you something, America. The government knows that there is no money for the healthcare workaround. What am I saying? I'm saying that the government is doing all of this as a charade to distract you from the truth of the economy. You're paying attention to political divisiveness and not to the reality on the ground, to facts outside of your very own door. Go outside and witness the poverty in your own neighborhoods. I don't think for a second that the Treasury Secretary or the Federal Reserve Chairman would say to the President, "Oh, go ahead and do this proposed healthcare legislation. We can afford $1 trillion more." No, everyone in the government knows that we're broke. There's no place to get $1 trillion more, and the President knows this, along with the more intelligent members of Congress. Bravo, though. Good distraction. It's worked, I would say, on many people. But I am not fooled for a second. Let's take a look at the job situation in the United States. Now, last month, according to the government data, only 200,000 jobs were lost. Do you believe that? Because I don't. I believe the government is now falsifying the data. I would do it too in the government's position. But that doesn't mean that those of us with half a brain are buying it, because we're not. Let me tell you what's going to happen to the job situation in the United States. We will continue on like we are now until sometime after Christmas. And when January rolls around, there will be job losses so massive that even the government won't be able to hide the true number. Essentially, what's happening right now is that every business, small to medium-sized business, that is, in retail across the country, is just hanging on for dear life until Christmas rolls around. Many of them believe that there will be a rebound of consumer spending, that people will flood to the malls and the small shops and buy presents for their relatives and themselves. And after Christmas, when the numbers come in, that's when the awful truth will hit. That there was no rebound, just like there was no back-to-school shopping spree this year. And that is when these companies will begin to lay off people in the millions. Our prosperity is quickly running out of steam. The Green Shoots Express is about to run straight into a wall. I, for the life of me, cannot figure out how the Dow Jones can be at almost 10,000 points. There's only one explanation that's plausible in my mind. Either the government is manipulating the market, which is the most likely thing, or we are a nation of morons and we all deserve to drown in despair and poverty. But I don't believe option number 2. Most people know that things are bad, and they're not going to run back into the market and invest. Where to go from here? There's just so much. But I'm sure those of you who are paying attention are well aware of what's going on. There is no good news out there. Let's talk about the Cash for Clunkers program. It was a thunderous success. Wonderful. For the last 2 months, we have increased auto sales at the dealerships, and the car companies are reporting money and income, and they're making more cars. Well, unless we continue this program indefinitely, the end is going to come for the auto industry. Because people are not going to buy cars without that $4,000 incentive. They're going to save their money. Do you see what I'm saying, America? Unless the government incentivizes everything, people are not going to spend money. It's deflation at its finest. Let's talk about crime now. Is it just me, or is it far more dangerous out there than it used to be? If you're still living in the la-di-da land of 2007, you'd best watch out when you step outside your house. Because now there are desperate people who have nothing except for a gun and desperation, and they're going to come after you if you have something. If you're walking around with a wallet flashing money, you can expect to get robbed. If you're driving a fancy car, you can expect to get carjacked. Times are horribly bad. And that brings up an interesting point. Illegal immigration. It's really going to come back and bite us in the butt now. The southwestern portions of the U.S. are starting to get hammered. You see, the illegal immigrants don't get food stamps, they don't get welfare, and they get nothing else. So if they can't find work, they have no means to support themselves or even feed themselves, which means they will turn to desperate measures such as crime. We are going to have to address this problem very swiftly and very sternly, shortly, or crime will spiral out of control. I want to talk about the tax situation in the United States. We are in quite a conundrum. You see, there's a problem here. We are increasing our federal and state budgets at a rapid clip, but we have no way to pay that money back. You see, as people lose their jobs, they make less. When Joe Schmo loses his job, he will not be going down to the mall to buy Adidas or Gucci and pay the 10% in taxes that would be associated with that purchase. When he's not making any money, he's not contributing anything to Social Security. He's not contributing to your state budgets. The tax rolls are falling, so to speak. So it's amazing to me that the GAO predicts that to a $10 trillion deficit projection for the next 10 years. That's $1 trillion a year. And I don't think that's taking into account state deficits. When the state governments can't even balance their own budgets, how do we intend to repay this money on the federal level? We simply cannot. I mean, who is there left to tax? The rich have already been taxed through the nose. The only thing left is to move in and confiscate everything they have left. The middle class? There isn't much left of the middle class. Right now they're wondering how they're going to retire someday, or if they'll even be able to retire. And the poor have nothing. My predictions for next year? Oh, you're gonna love this one. Are you familiar with your Russian history? In 1998, Russia suffered a horrific financial collapse. It devastated everything. I think that's where we're going. So if you want to know what our future will be like, you need to look up Russia and financial collapses. Learn about what life was like in Russia after their banking systems collapsed, after inflation took hold, after the government had to step in everywhere. That is what life will be like in the United States. Now, if you want practical advice on how to survive from me, you should do this. Buy a handgun, start a pantry, get gardening equipment, and buy everything you're going to need for the next decade. Because once the economy collapses, you're not going to be able to go out and buy another 52-inch plasma screen TV or computer. There won't be anything left on the shelf.